Hey there, my name is LexC, and we need to talk. We need to talk about character building and the type of traits that will help you to be a good engineer and really an overall better person. If we think about what an engineer does and how the whole recording process works, notice that the engineer only works during a session time that works best for the client, and the engineer is responsible for making sure the client records quality sound with a finished song or multiple finished songs. I believe that to be a good engineer, we really have to develop patience as one of our key traits to being an engineer, because being an engineer is very tedious and very time consuming. It's not just you in that room. You're working with an artist who's trying to get a song or project together. As the engineer, we are part of the recording process, but we're not necessarily a part of the creative process. We put the artist's ideas into something that can be heard. So let's start with the artist, okay? An artist hopefully prepares a song to record, and I say hopefully because I've had a lot of clients who come in and try to freestyle everything during a session, but the artist prepares a song and practices how he or she wants it to sound. Then that artist books a session at the studio, ideally. But no matter what level that person is, the recording process is still the same. So I shouldn't have even said anything about preparing lyrics, because whether an artist prepares lyrics or not, the recording process is going to be the same, as far as that artist is always going to want to do the whole song over again, or focus in on one or two parts and do those parts over and over again until they get a take that they feel is the one. So the reason why I say patience is the most important trait as an engineer, it's an important trait an engineer has to have, is because of the recording process. As an engineer, we're sitting behind that desk for 1 hour, up to 8 or 10 hours, depending on the kind of clients that you have and what kind of project or how much material they have to record. If you're not an engineer, and this is just something that I want you to relate to, if you're not an engineer, just picture that you are a carpenter or like a handyman or something. Your client wants you to mount a flat screen TV on the wall. They know how they want it to look, and they think they know where they want to put it, but they're not really going to be sure until it's actually placed on the wall and until they can see it in the entirety of the whole room. So imagine you're this carpenter. You put the TV up on the wall in one spot. The client looks at it, doesn't like it. You take it down, you move it to another spot. Client looks at it again, doesn't like it. Take it down, put it in another spot, and you do that whole process 20 more times. That is what it feels like to be an engineer dealing with an artist in the studio. So a client comes in to do a song, just like the example I just gave you, but a client comes in to do a song, they're not entirely sure how they want it to sound until after they've tried a few options, or 20 in the case of engineers, right? So that's what engineers deal with. If you're an impatient person, you won't be able to be an engineer, because you have to understand that aspect before you can truly say that you want to engineer for somebody, you want to be an engineer in the studio. You have to understand that aspect. Even though we're not the ones in that booth, we have to be extremely understanding of what artists face coming into the studio. Before an artist really starts to get to know you, and before you both really start to get to know each other's work habits and work ethics, you're a stranger to that artist. What if that artist is recording a particularly personal song, something that might be very, very painful or very close and near and dear to them? They're basically pouring their heart out for a complete stranger. Some artists may be new to the studio and aren't used to being and recording in a studio, so you have to also take that into consideration. Being an engineer means we have to be patient. We have to be understanding. We have to be good listeners. You have to be willing to literally sit through the entire recording process until the artist finishes his or her time, or until they feel they have a good song recorded. You have to remember that it's not always easy to perform a personal song for a stranger, or that it's not easy being in the studio for the first time. You have to make sure you're attentive to their needs, that you're listening to what they're asking, because making sure you're paying attention to them, that makes the whole process a lot easier, and it makes the artist feel more comfortable and feel satisfied that they got exactly what they wanted out of the session. So when you think about it, as an engineer, you have to be very selfless and able to take yourself out of the ego, able to take away that pride. I'm an artist myself who just so happens to know how to engineer, but I don't insert myself into another artist's vision because that's not my place, right? I don't insert myself into another artist's vision unless I'm asked for my opinion or unless I'm asked to be a part of the creative process. Otherwise, I would never want to step on anyone's toes and I would never want to force my opinion on that artist. It can be hard enough for them to be in the studio, so I definitely don't want to do anything that's going to turn them off or ruin that experience. The thing about engineering for someone is we have to be very respectful of what that person wants, and we have to understand that the session is not about us, even if we also happen to be an artist. In my case, and in the case of a lot of other people, we can't push our work habits or opinions on that artist if our opinion wasn't asked for. A major problem I've seen with some engineers is the inability to take themselves out of someone else's vision. As an engineer, we work for hire. So our input does not have any standing unless we're cool with the artist and they trust us and they welcome our judgment. Otherwise, our opinion has no standing. We are there for the time that they book us for, and that's it. But back to my whole point of being a selfless person. When you really think about the role an engineer plays, engineers are really selfless people. Granted, we are getting paid. That's the trade-off. You're not going to get an engineer for free because that's my time. That's our time. But as engineers, we are literally there for the artist and whatever that artist wants to do. We're there for it. We're pretty freaking supportive when you think about it, right? So if you're the type of person who can't sit in one spot for a long time, engineering may not be for you. If you don't take direction well, this may not be for you. If you're not willing to do something over and over and over and over again until your client is happy with what they have, engineering just may not be in your deck of cards, all right? Now, don't get me wrong. There are times when even I don't feel like being supportive, and there are times when I want to tell my clients that their lyrics suck, and there are times when I want to run the show so the session can move along, but at the end of the day, that's not what I get paid for. I get paid to record whatever you need me to record and to make sure your experience as my client is as comfortable as possible, as comfortable as I can make it for you, to be completely free to be creative and to not have to worry about anything else except making music in that moment during our time. That's my job. That's what I'm supposed to do as an engineer. And that's really all I have to say about that. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. I hope you've enjoyed our talk. And I hope you have a new and better perspective on what makes a good engineer. And hopefully you've learned some things that you can take to heart and start to work on and develop so that you can make sure you are feeding those traits that are necessary and so important for an engineer to have, at least in my opinion. So thanks for the talk. Thank you for watching. If you feel like I made some really good points in this video, please give me a big thumbs up and subscribe if you'd like to hear more content like this. If you have any comments or questions, leave comments in the comment section below, or you can email me at lexcatl.com. But as always, thank you for watching. My name is LexC. Until next time, peace. As I said before, music just always stuck with me, even though I didn't necessarily know, or I wasn't necessarily brave enough to say at a young age, this is what I want to do. I think I always mentioned it to my family, my parents, but I was also a really shy kid growing up, so I don't think anyone really took me seriously.